last week on the Nicoletti Show. Let's welcome him to the show. Esteban, my guy, what's up?
I ended up deciding to go towards a very particular niche, which was the lead generation part of real estate. There's many ways to get out of the never-ending acquisition game. You stop working and when to stop. No revenue, no rewards. Whenever you're doing advertising, guys, the most important thing of why your campaign is not working or it's working is because you don't have the proper offer.
Huge value right there, Esteban. I mean, lots of different things people can pick up from what you just talked about.
If everyone is saying we buy houses, then you just become a commodity. You just become like everyone, right? You just become average. Your sales process needs to match your marketing and your marketing needs to match your sales. Your conversion will increase over 350% once you figure out the way to following up in less than 3 minutes.
Love it. Great words right there.
It's so important to service your clients so fast because they're gonna say, this guy is freaking reliable. Start leveraging what the new economy is telling you to leverage. If you guys invest into real estate, also invest into the people's real estate inside their head.
Thank you for being on. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much, man.
What's up, everybody? Wednesday night on the Nicoletti Show. I hope everybody is having a great Wednesday. Welcome. We're in studio. I'm so excited for this episode today. If you missed any of Esteban's episode last week, it was a masterclass from Esteban on Google PPC, how you can really get more leads, how you can figure out how to leverage Google to get more leads from sellers, have sellers contact you, really ask those big questions when you get into this niche in real estate. And it doesn't even have to be just real estate, as Esteban was talking about. It can be really any business. But if you missed any of that, make sure you check it out on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and you can catch the video replay on the YouTube channel or Facebook, and all the micro that'll constantly drop on Instagram at Attorney Nicoletti. Find it all there. Tonight is going to be a masterclass on flipping, construction, and some really cool things that Alex is working on in the future. He's going to dive in on a little bit, touch on that, and we can talk about this stuff because Alex is a master of his craft. We will talk about some of the things he's done since COVID hit to now, but when he talks about flipping, people listen. And I can't wait to dive in. I'll do my whole intro on him. This is going to be exciting, but do one thing. Make sure if you do anything tonight with a guest like Alex, you got to get out the notepad. You got to get out the pen. Make sure you take plenty of notes. And here's what I'd say too. If you're on the live and you're watching, interact. We want
Alex is here. This is the perfect time to ask live. This is what we're doing, is engaging with everybody. So I just want everybody to know, ask your questions. We're going to answer it. So let's do this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their community that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate, and bringing on people that are really diving in really cool niches, right? So whether it's Airbnb, commercial, construction, land, anything in the niche world in real estate, no matter where they are, whether it's Florida, anywhere in the US, we're bringing on people that can really dive in on special topics, especially with fix and flipping, like the guests we're going to have on tonight, because people like Alex and people that are in this game can really help level you up and change your business, change your life, and really make a new focus on what you can do going forward. And we talk about things that can help take your business to the next level. On my show tonight, I have Alex Rose. This guy is a local celebrity among investors in Jacksonville. And I say that because Alex, he does fix and flips, beautiful fix and flips. He does before videos, after videos. He does walkthroughs. He shows the whole thing. You got to check out his content. Check out his Facebook page. We'll make sure we put it up there for you. But it's really cool seeing the behind the scenes, what he's working on, what he's doing. Because there's a lot of people that do fix and flips and they may not capture it or document it. But one thing that Alex has done over the last year and a half, and I paid attention, I've watched the videos, super cool, super smooth, does the walkthroughs, shows what it looked like, talks about material, how do you deal with it, how do you leverage it, what's the exit plan, and what do you do with it? So cool. So on the episode tonight, we're really going to go over a lot of interesting things that he wants to talk about, which is hiring assistants, how you save money in this business, which is key. Talking about the quality over budget and what that means. Are you looking for more quality or quantity? And the budget, it plays a role in all of that. We'll go over some market predictions because everybody wants to hear about what's kind of happening in the market and how are some investors shifting and pivoting in their market. We'll go into some strategies when it comes to that in terms of long-term plays, short-term plays, partnering with the community. We're going to go over some construction things that he's been working on, but we are saving the best for last, which is the thing that I think is the most fascinating part of the night. We were talking backstage about it. I'm still like buzzing about it, which is the new thing that Alex is focusing on in the future going forward, which is event spaces and what that's going to be like. It's almost like the Airbnb, but for events. It's a really interesting concept. What can you do with it? How do you dive in on it? So I'm super excited. He's in studio, in the Al Nicoletti studio. It's crazy. We do these episodes where they're usually virtual, but I'm just so happy that we get to bring somebody in person. And Alex is here. So without further ado, let's welcome him to the show. Alex Rose. Alex.
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
Thanks for having me.
Well, yeah, I love that you're here. I love that I got to see you at Yellowbird. Right before I left, I was like, no. Alex, you got to be on the show. I mean, I've seen what you do. Welcome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, what a journey you've been on in the last year.
Oh, it's been crazy.
Yeah. I mean, doing your videos, doing flips.
Yeah. We've been doing a lot of stuff. Airbnbs and VRBO type stuff's a big part of it. Like I said, event space, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Our office conversion's been a big part of our life for the last 12 months. Obviously, we've been dealing with, the repercussions of COVID. Now we're dealing with, inflation and rising interest rates, which is kind of putting a toll on things. But, we're making our shifts and we're ready for the market to make its change.
Yeah. So usually what I do with guests, I mean, really brief, you could go as long as you want on this, but how did it really begin for you in real estate? Like, before COVID hit, before all the fix and flips, like what were you thinking or doing? And you were just like, I'm going to get into this game.
Right. So, I kind of needed to figure out a way out of the kitchen. I was in the restaurant industry originally, worked there for several years, and I just needed to get out of the kitchen. So getting a real estate license was the way to go. From there, I, met with a local investor and his father, and they kind of, held me under their wings, taught me a lot about property management. And I like the idea of holding long-term rentals. So did that. We had a business agreement together where, I managed all the rental properties for them as well as all of their clients. That lasted for a few years. And then, we kind of went separate ways, and I opened up Green Palm Realty. At that point in my life, I had to find another way to make money other than, managing rentals for others. So started flipping homes, started with a couple, in the first year. Next year we did 4, and then, so on and so forth. So for the last, several years, we've been doing multiple flips. That's pretty much my primary thing. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, I wanted to get a beach house. And then from that point, had to find a way to pay for it. So we were going to, list it on Airbnb, VRBO. And then, that thing just killed it. So from that point on, we just started trying picking up as many as we can. Obviously the market got a little hot.
Mm-hmm.
Properties got a little too expensive.
Yeah.
We slowed down, and now we're at where we're at, but, it's still exciting, and, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it. I mean, you have a lot of fun with it. You love making the videos. You love talking about it. And I think that's important with documenting your journey and what you're doing. So interesting points is you were doing this kind of stuff before COVID.
Right.
COVID hits. We all know the lumber prices were going up. Windows were hard to get. I mean, talk about a hard time to you're loving the flip idea. And then all of that happens. What was that all like when COVID hit, and then you had to really think about budget and everything?
Right. So, we've always been, well, I don't want to say always. When I first started off, a lot of the times I was always trying to do things the cheapest that I could. I would do a lot of the work myself. I want to say we'd cut corners. Sometimes we had to cut corners here and there, and we really shifted away from doing that and being more into quality over, quantity in a lot of ways. But obviously COVID hit. We had built some really good relationships with our vendors. So I think they gave us priority at times whenever, a window needed to be ordered. They're going to put ours in, or are we going to have to wait a week or an additional week. So, we kind of just wanted to keep that relationship strong with those guys. We obviously, the market was still hot, actually got even hotter right after COVID. So we foregoed on windows, right? Windows took 8, 10, 12 weeks. So instead of buying windows, we just kept the ones that were there. So a lot of those high cost materials we just did without. And, we're seeing now that we can't do that. The market's shifting in a way where we're going to have to go back to much higher quality products going out to the customer. But that was pretty much our big thing, was just don't do it. Just don't put the windows in. We still, just ate the cost of the lumber. That was one of the biggest hits that we had. But at the same time, we were able to offset that by selling the house for a lot more.
Right.
So the unfortunate side of that now is that, we're seeing the rates go up, values go down, lumber prices are not going down. So we just have to buy smarter this time.
It sounds like common sense to be like, well, then just keep what you have. But it's like nobody was really talking about that. I feel like on some of the feeds and some of the Facebook groups, it was like, we need windows. But it was like, what about the windows that were there? So, I mean, it's a great point that it probably saved on money, saved on time, and it allowed you to do what you wanted to do.
Absolutely. And, we're always pivoting. Every project from when we start to when we finish, we've probably pivoted 20 times. So it's really not that big of a difference. It's just on a larger scale. We're pivoting on all of our properties, at the same time for different reasons. But I think, just being used to the constant pivot really helped us manage through that.
Yeah. So how did all of that transpire into your thought process of saving money and how saving money is the wrong mindset, that you really want to focus on quality over budget?
Yeah. So that concept came into working with certain vendors. So, we learned that when you deal with cheaper vendors, guys that are willing to, just piece things together, you're just going to have a miserable time. You're going to sell a crappy product. So when we started to meet better vendors, right, electricians that were just really hot that we could trust, they didn't want to just like piece it together. They said, hey, it's like, or plumbers, we're not just going to piece your plumbing together. We're going to repipe the house. And in order to keep those types of quality vendors, you got to do it their way a lot of the time. And then we found out by just following their instruction, following their lead, that, we didn't have bigger issues at the time of sale. The inspections at the time of sale didn't, end up costing us, several $1,000s more because we had to go fix it anyways. But everyone's happier. The people that work behind the plumbers happier because they don't, they're not kind of tripping over each other. So it kind of went together with just following the leads of the professionals that we hired to do the job.
Yeah, because that's also a hard thing to measure too. Is like if you're trying to save money, right now you have more money to put into other things, but when you start upping the quality, that means things get more expensive, and then you really got to start making sure that the pieces that you're putting in place are going to be worth the money and the time and all that. So,
and it comes to, of course, my time too, right? So you just do it right the first time. You don't have to spend the time later fixing it.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest cost savings.
Yeah. And I take it that played a role in focusing on what did you want to focus on in terms of the projects, right? You can't do everything.
Can't do it all.
Yeah. And I felt that way in my business like a few months or a half a year ago. Like I'm doing everything. And I'm like, wait a second, no, it's got to get to a time where you need to start delegating. You need to start hiring. And I think that was something you talked about that really started working more for you, which is hire, delegate.
Right. So obviously, like big part of that is, again, going back to the vendors we use. Whenever you have higher quality vendors, you can kind of delegate an entire electrical job to that guy. You don't have to look over their shoulders. You don't have to, constantly worry about whether or not they're doing it right. So that's step one, hiring higher quality guys. Might cost a little bit more, but you don't have to worry about it. Same things with flooring, roofing, windows, you name it. But then, so for me, I've always been a bit of a control freak. I feel like I had to do it all to get it done right. Obviously, there's not enough time in the day to do all that, and it's exhausting. So the biggest move for me was eventually hire an assistant, right? And when I did that, I had no idea what that person was going to do. I just knew that like I could, and I really couldn't even at the time afford that person. I didn't think I could. But once I did hire that person, it freed me up to do other things that made me more money. And of course, you might not know exactly how to start or what they're going to do. So I've always had a model, at least, just to get it going, just get started, and then work together and figure that thing out. So now I have an assistant, administrative assistant, and I have a project manager assistant. So these aren't, theoretically, this would be somebody that would be an office admin or an office manager.
Right.
If I were to hire that person that wasn't an assistant type, they would just take that role on. And the project manager, we have, foremen and project manager for, construction companies, but I can't afford, or really I don't want to hire a high end project manager or office admin and really just give them a bunch of crap that I put together, right? So I need these assistants to kind of help me build that. And then as time goes on, they'll either be, moved up to that position, or we'll end up hiring somebody that'll be able to take that role on, and we'll be able to move them to a different position. We're all wearing about, 5 different hats, doing 5 different types of jobs.
Right.
So,
yeah, no, I think that, of course, hiring those people that could fit that role, that could do all that work, saves you time, saves you don't want to do those kinds of things over and over. So what have been some of the best ways that, one, you've either found that kind of assistant, two, that fits the mold, right? Like what have been some of the best things that you're looking for, especially in a real estate model?
well, I think it goes with everyone, with any kind of job. It's hire the person, not the position. So because I didn't know what it was I was looking for in these positions, because I've never had that position before, right? Kind of just winging it. So what I was looking for is just the type of person that I wanted to work with, somebody that would be able to take instruction, but it was also someone that could, work on their own. And really, those are just the 2 things that worked for me. Somebody that I feel like I could trust, that would deal with my crap. Because honestly, when they come to work, the first several months that they're working, it's going to be a little crazy. And I always tell them that, like, I don't know what I'm doing this, but we're going to figure it out together. And, if they're cool with it and I'm cool with it, we figured out, it's worked out really well so far.
Interesting. Yeah. Cause it's tough. It's tough to find that mold, right? One that's going to complement you, 2 that's going to understand what it's going to take for that role, right? Cause everybody's got the different personality, different things that they're good at skills wise. And to find what's going to work in that particular role is hard. But it goes back to your point of, you need these positions, and you've realized that you've needed these positions to help you scale to what you want to do, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's going to be big. One thing that, and we got people that are watching. Gina's watching. Gina's a huge fan of you. Gina's watching. What's up, Gina? Daniel's watching. One thing that is big is the content that you've been doing and you've been posting out there. That's one thing I don't think we even talked about or covered.
No, sure.
What's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, so that started when I was big into. So I'm a real estate broker. We know that, and I spent a few years really going gung ho into being the best realtor in Jacksonville. That was my goal, right? I wanted to sell all the houses in Jacksonville, and I've learned it's not really my position. But while I was doing that, I joined Tom Ferry, and Tom Ferry's they were really big into just go out there and do it, and our whole office kind of had to get uncomfortable, and we started to just Facebook Live in it. And I found like Facebook Live is a lot easier than creating a video, because once you start, you can't stop. And at first there was butterflies in the belly, and it was very difficult. And at that time I was just showcasing homes. That kind of went away. Now I flip homes. It's just something that I do. I really do it for fun, and I do it for, people that want to know. I'm not necessarily putting it out there to gain business or to gain, a following per se, but I feel like it seems to benefit certain people. And if it can help someone, that's great. It also documents my journey, as you mentioned before.
Yeah.
I'll be able to look back a few years and say, okay, that's, A, how I was able to handle myself on camera, but B, that's, the type of stuff I was doing on jobs. And, I have friends that'll reshare those videos from years before. It's nice to reminisce and look at a house and also see that I did different countertops then, or I, maybe handled windows differently then than I do now. So it's more of a documentation, I would say, and maybe just a free way to help out when I can.
Yeah, it's neat seeing it from your perspective, because like I'm sure my perspective, the outside perspective is like, it's just really cool seeing somebody take that property, what it was, right? You may have bought it from either somebody that did a wholesale deal, maybe you did direct to seller, who knows?
Right.
But taking that deal and then doing that walkthrough of, this is what it was before, these were the walls that were up before, this is everything. And then doing even the during and the after. And I mean, I can see some of the videos in my head. I remember the one that was like a blue house, the white door, you were standing there having coffee, and I remember it. Right. So
Right.
it's one of those memorable things that you're like, I'm able to figure it out. Here's how you do it. And it's inspiring to people that are watching it out there. I mean, you get hundreds of views on those videos, you know? See, it's great watching content like that. It helps everybody that's doing this kind of stuff.
And I mean, there's some education in there, I think. And again, for me, it helps me kind of document the property itself.
Yeah.
We want to see where we were and what mistakes we made. And as you know, a lot of the videos you'll see, like I said, we pivot all the time. I'll have a plan when I start. By the time we end, it's different. Yeah. So just how it is. And it's nice to see it documented that way.
So cool. I love it. One thing that's been happening lately too, it's a hot topic right now, right? Is what the market's doing. And we went from COVID when the market just went straight down a little bit. And then all of a sudden, freaked everybody out. It was a crazy moment for everybody. But then all of a sudden comes May, June, July of 2020, all of a sudden the prices are going up. It becomes a buying frenzy. And then the prices are going super high. Interest rates are going down. And it's putting the market into a totally different spin.
Right.
And then go a year and a half later, and all of a sudden we go from 3% interest rates. Now they keep going up higher. And then we talk about today where it's 8. I mean,
it's insane.
How do you handle, one, as the investor, how do you handle those kind of market fluctuations?
Right.
And two, when you're holding Airbnbs or you have, whether you're holding properties, what's the strategy when you're playing the market and what's happening?
Wow. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There, right.
Yeah.
I mean, so we talk about the 8%. One of the things that I think emotionally that we have to keep under control is our emotions. And for me, I always like to think back. I had a news article from the 80s, and I wasn't, buying houses then, but news article from the 80s that I found probably in someone's house. And it was a VA advertisement about, I think, interest rates at 10%, and that being like a killer deal because it's VA. You can get you locked in right now at 10%. I believe they were up to 18% in the 80s for a time or whatever. Thing is, people bought homes then, and I'm sure most of them usually put 50% down. Obviously, homes were less expensive compared to income and all that comparison. But point is, it's been worse. We made it through it. It's going to be just fine, right? We went through the Great Recession. That was a different kind of a weirdness, but we'll make it through it. So controlling ourselves there, knowing that interest rates are going to get higher. People will still buy homes. I'm still going to flip homes. I just have to make sure I buy a little smarter right now to make up for the home values dropping in the next few months to few years. With the Airbnb and the short-term rental space, that's another one. The Great Recession, we had property values drop by 50%. There was an article I read where I think the vacation rental market only dropped like 15%. People still vacationed whenever the market makes a shift. Maybe instead of going to France or Italy, or maybe instead of flying up to California, they're just going to drive from Tennessee to St. Augustine. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, we're in a strong place when it comes to that. And we have vacation rental spaces in good, oceanfront, right? I mean, that's a great spot. It's always going to be a good spot.
Yeah.
So I think we're positioned well for that reason there. Obviously, we know people will always long-term rent. Worst case scenario, we got these properties at such low interest rates. I mean, we have some, at 3%. So with investor loans.
Wow.
So, our mortgage payments are low. And that's kind of how we're handling that one.
Yeah.
We can withstand, paying the mortgage if we needed to, and we couldn't rent it out, but I think we still will. The biggest thing that I'm dealing with me is flips right now. I mean, the property homes I bought 6 months ago, unfortunately, I'm still renovating some of those, not my normal flip time frame. The biggest holdback for that was I had this office renovation we're going to talk about. That kind of slowed me up. I was a little too excited about that and kind of, put some of my projects on the hold. But either way, what we have to do is we just have to either sell them at break even or a loss. That's something that might just have to happen. And in other cases, what we're actively doing now is refinancing them, keeping as rentals. Even with interest rates as high as they are, we're able to refinance them at a higher value than if we could sell them. Because our appraisers, at least the ones that we're working with, are looking at values from 6 months ago, where values were a little higher, I think, than what a buyer would pay for it now. You could still value it the same way perhaps now, but I don't know if a buyer would actually pay for it right now at the same price. So we're able to do that and get our money back and maybe still break even on a profit sense, but we get to keep the asset and hold off for the next few years and then resell it or just keep it forever. So we're for the next group of them that we can't sell, we're keeping them as rentals. That's kind of our strategy there.
Yeah, and I
And
think
then buying better deals. The next one that we buy, the one after that, and the one after that, then we're not going to be as as easy to purchase as we were before.
yeah, we were talking about this like a while ago, which was like a lot of people during COVID, after COVID, they don't want to do long-term holds, right? They don't want to deal with those kind of tenant situations anymore. Like everybody pivoted in that moment because that was the thing before COVID. And then they all went to Airbnbs, right? That was the thing. And then you and I were talking, it's like when you do this, when you get into real estate and you start having these holds and you're buying and you're acquiring assets, you're not wholesaling and doing cash, but if you're holding,
Right.
you have to have long-term plays, long-term action plans, and short-term action plans.
Right.
So
multiple outs.
yeah. So talk to us about both of those. And I hear what you're saying. You're like, well, for now, we're gonna do the long-term rentals, right? We're gonna go into rentals, right? Because the fixes or the flips are hard. But maybe when the market shifts again, maybe if interest rates either go down or what's ever gonna happen, what happens to home prices, then you'll go back to the long-term play. What's the difference that people should be looking at when they have those two plans?
You mean long term and flipping?
Yeah, we're long-term action plans, short-term. Like people should have both ready.
Yeah, I mean,
at their
I
disposal.
always feel like anytime you're flipping a home, I mean, and when I first got started, the back of my head, there was always a plan that I might have to live in the house. Right, never happened, but you never know. And obviously, the next step is always, and I think the safest bet is you always have to be ready to rent that property out. Homes will rent. It's even if you're losing a couple $100 a month, it's not the name of the game is you want to make some cash and not lose it. But if you have to, you got to be ready for it. You got to be ready to flip the house and make nothing. Right, you got to be ready to lose a little bit. Some people get into flipping and investing and they're just not prepared to lose. And I think that's where they get in trouble. You got to be prepared to lose a little bit sometimes. So I think that's the biggest bit of advice I can give you on that is just be ready to hold on to it for a long time. Trust a property manager that's good at it or take on that role yourself. And just keep it as a long-term rental until things shift, until you're able to sell it and make a profit or break even.
Yeah, and then just wait for that market to go back into a different flux.
Sure.
And then you can come up with your next plan of action.
Right.
Right.
And holding it as a rental is always a great option, I think. I mean, some people get scared. They worry about tenant issues and evictions and things like that. That's part of being in real estate. You just got to be ready for those.
Yeah. Another thing that we were talking about was last time I saw you on a graphic was when you were going to be at Yellowbird on the panels for the construction panels. And I remember I saw you, I was like, man, I mean, I wasn't there. I know you couldn't make
I
it.
was sick, yeah.
And I was like, man, that would have been so cool. Like, Alex talking about construction. Cause like, again, like you said, you're doing fix and flips, you're doing all these things. And then you got to talking about how like, there's so many different things going on in construction that you could dive in on. Like you can go down a whole rabbit hole. But one thing that was really interesting to you, which is what's happening in Avondale, the historic
Right.
concept. Talk to us about those kinds of things that are the developments that happen with historic properties or even on that part of
Right.
Jacksonville.
So yeah, we've always enjoyed doing that for a few reasons. One is that, we could really put design and art into a property and get that back when we sold it. Certain West Side Arlington homes, you really can't do a lot. You're just going to paint it, floors, the basic crap, get a property out there and you're done. It got a little boring. Riverside, Avondale, certain neighborhoods like that, you can do that. The buyers want it, they'll pay for it. And then of course, whenever we acquire homes from over there, they usually need a full makeover anyways. So it's an easier decision to make. You've got to tear it all out. You got to redo it. You can't save the bathrooms usually. So, and then there's usually higher profit margins, right? Now, but what we've learned, the biggest part is permitting. And there's been a big discussion about that, contractors and permitting. There's just a nasty, situation going around. And always has been about contractors in that sense. But what we like to kind of focus on, we obviously use general contractors to do our work or pull permits. But what we like to do is, deal with the historic society, building relationships with the building department, building relationships with the not RAP, but historical department downtown, We've learned that they're really not that difficult to deal with. They are a form of government. Sometimes they're hard to, manage their way, speak their language. But when it comes down to it, nothing's impossible. It's really not as hard as a lot of people make it out to be. And they have a lot of their rules written down on paper. You can just read it right out, on their website, or they'll be able to print it out for you there downtown.
Mm.
So, but it's a lot funner to do a Riverside house, and that's my biggest reason for, I think, working out there.
Yeah, and you were talking about RAP, Riverside Avondale Preservation Society.
Right. So they're just, RAPs. Everyone references RAP whenever we talk about construction in the historic department. So RAP is really just like an organization of, community organization. They don't have really any power. They issue the RAP signs. You can pay for them. You stick them on your house. And you can join all the fun things they're going to do, the luminary thing here in about a month or so. But that's about what they do. They're a social club to a degree.
Mm.
The historic department downtown is the ones that people got to worry about. They hold control over certain areas, Riverside, Avondale, Springfield. They don't hold control over places like Murray Hill or San Marco. They're not designated historical districts. They don't have the same kind of control. I didn't know that. I thought, historical, San Marco's historical. We call, Riverside's got their own historical association as well, but they don't have the same control that they do with Riverside and Avondale.
Yeah.
Springfield.
Yeah. What we're really talking about is all the construction stuff, right? So doing kind of construction developments or building, but when you're doing it in historic areas,
Right,
designated
for sure. Yeah,
historic.
and you have to ask permission to do things. But I mean, I think people, expect that, when you ask for permission, are they going to tell you exactly what paint color or paint codes to use on the exterior? It's not that, difficult. Typically, I don't think they'll allow you to do like a bright, pink in certain areas. But like, it's more importantly to them, like that you don't remove, historical features of a house, or that you keep the same siding or the same look of the siding. They prefer the same, materials, but that's not always the possibility. Obviously, they're big into keeping windows the way that they are, but you can still rebuild windows to match the old window. And in some cases, you can ask permission and they'll approve it.
Yeah, I mean that's a totally different world than I've seen. So, and not only that is you'll have that in Avondale and that whole area, but really I'm thinking about people. I mean, not only just all over the country, but even parts of other Florida, right, where there's other historic areas and how people want to get into construction or development. Maybe there's lots of land in a certain county in New Smyrna or in Seminole County, something over there, right?
Right.
An historic area, like. And I think they can learn from, wait a second, there's these things working with the community, partnering with them to overcome those issues whenever you want to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you want to do something. Another big point is that, the control they have really has to do with the exterior of these homes. So, you can renovate the entire inside of a home and not ask permission, from the historic department. So I think people are worried that they can't do, a renovation in Riverside because they have to deal with this. When if they're only doing work on the inside, they just have to do the typical building permits, and then they get permission from historic, and they'll pass it through since it's not affecting the exterior. Or if you're just going to paint, landscape, and maybe do some exterior wood rot, you just ask for permission. It's a free process. You submit it, within a week, they give you approval and you're done. It's not, that big of a deal dealing with them.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know if anybody goes through that kind of stuff and you're watching this, like that. I mean, those are things that Alex has seen. So if you ever have those things that come up, it's a good resource. You should probably, it'd be really cool to do a video on an historic property that you got and how you walk through those procedures, because people just don't know that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah. And something we thought about doing, this was before COVID, was videotaping the process of dealing with the building department. It's it can be daunting. It can be chaotic, but doing that, walking in the building department, being shifted from one desk to the other desk, back and forth, this guy said to talk to this guy, and they, they don't even know who that guy is. And then, they send you, and they're all in the same building. Same thing with the historic department. They're just one floor up or maybe two floors up, but going through that process and talking to those people. Code enforcement's another one, same building. Being able to understand that dealing with the government's a part of, flipping houses. You got to be involved with them. So we thought about doing a video on that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I guess I watch too many TikToks and Reels. I can also see that being like a whole like viral video too. Like it all didn't work out. You all get kicked out of the building.
Yeah.
Something
And they
went
don't like
wrong,
camera.
you know?
Yeah.
But that's really cool. Like I think that's value. Who's doing that, right?
Right.
Nobody's really showing the behind the scenes of what that's really like and how that's all going to play out.
Right.
Man.
That'd be
It's-
good. That would be helpful.
Yeah. Well, the one thing, Alex, what you're talking about, it's huge. It's valuable for people out there. I think a lot of people they're not even in your position where they've been doing flips and going through all these changes and hiring people. Some people are just a one person operation, right? Some people are 3 people operations, but they don't have, the assistants and the staff. So it's like, it really helps to hear someone like you that you're getting into this, you're doing your content. But the cool thing and I think this was the coolest thing that Alex and I were talking about, is what's next on the horizon, right? So Alex has been doing fix and flips. If you haven't seen his videos, we'll make sure we put it down in the Chiron so everybody could see it. But Alex and I are talking, and he's like, yeah, fix and flips. But what's really next is the event space and how he's going to get into that. Alex, what's the new big next thing that you're working on right now in event spaces? Because this sounds so cool.
Right. So we talked about pivoting, right? You got to find a way to pay for things. You got to find a way, if something changes. And so, we've got properties. Honestly, if I explain how this goes, it might sound like I'm a little scatterbrained. And at times that's what happens. We had a camper that we wanted to turn into a bar, a buddy of mine. So knowing that was okay, we renovated the camper. It's now ready to go. And now we got to bring it to market. We got to start, we could use it as a bar ourselves for our own events. But obviously we want to make money off of it, so we have to start dealing with event planners and wedding planners is who we thought. Realtors for open houses, things like that. They can use this. So while that was going on in the back of our heads, we started to look at the properties that we currently had and what else they could benefit from. We have vacation rentals, right? Those are residential homes that have been able to bring in some good income. So we kind of thought that maybe we could do other things with those. People have asked us for some of our beach houses whether or not they could have a wedding at the beach house. So keeping that all in mind, we have an office now that we just bought in Riverside, renovated. We're still finishing up some of those renovations. And we have this 2,000 square foot space there. And we got to figure out what to do with it. Are we going to rent it out to a CrossFit gym? Are we going to have like a doggy daycare there? You got to figure something out with that space. So we kind of just connected them all together and figured, we need to start, we make you do an event space, right? We can benefit from not doing too much work to it. We don't have to completely build it out. We can just rent out this big room. People can have weddings, birthdays, sewing competitions, whatever they want to do in this office. They could bring the camper. Then we went into other spaces like we have a house in Green Cove Springs. It was good. We just bought it to possibly flip it. We didn't really have a plan for it. It was going to be flip or long-term rental. And as we looked at it, I think Green Cove Springs has a lot of future with the event spaces. It's right down the street from the Clay Theater. That's a big event space people get married at. So we kind of wanted to piggyback off of them and figure we'd use this little house as an event space that people could have rehearsal dinners at, or birthday parties and things like that. The biggest reason why we went into it was because we want to be involved in other people's happiness. We learned a lot of that with the vacation rentals. People go on vacation for 7 days. They come happy, they leave happy, and it really rubs off on me. So I like that. I like the feeling that you get from them. Obviously, there's good profit involved with vacation rentals. I expect there would be as well with event spaces. But a big part of it is that we get to enjoy their happiness and be a part of it. And I think that's just a future that I want to be a part of.
Yeah, it's really cool. We were walking and talking about it, which is you have all these wedding spaces that you can buy the venue or buy the place, and then people are just having a wedding. You can have an event in the morning, a brunch in the morning, and all of a sudden somebody's doing a gala at night,
Right.
a birth or multiple birthday parties through the day. And I think the thing that I was thinking about while we were talking is, an ROI on something like that could be massive. I mean, not only could you buy a place that has multiple venues where maybe it's not just one giant thing for a wedding, but multiple spots, and now you're having multiple events, but it's only a certain duration, right? Like an Airbnb is either a day, it could be a week, it could be a couple days, it could be 4 months, like Mark Marcellus was talking about.
Right.
People come down here, it's like 5 months, 6 months. A long-term hold, you got a whole year, consistent flow, monthly. But with events, it's like they're in, they're out, you get the happy experience. And I think that's what kind of triggered me going, wait a second, this is like, nobody's really talking about this. I haven't heard anybody even say anything. Had so many people on the show, nobody's really ever said event spaces.
Right.
And it's unique. And of course, it's Alex that
Right.
talks about this.
And then, the thing is, this probably isn't the best way to promote it, but I think, there's a space for discount event spaces. Because when I think of an event space and we look out, at weddings, and usually people want to have their wedding at a big, glamorous spot. We're doing a lot of barns is what we're seeing now. But a lot of those are like $20,000 for the day or for the weekend. I think that there are people out there that, have a need for, $2,000 to $3,000 weekend at an event space. And, they're not sleeping there. They're just going to have it, have their dinner, and they're going to have a party afterward or whatever. They're going to have their event. And then they're going to go home. And, I think there's going to be a big market for that.
Yeah, I could just see that kind of taking off on its own. And like you were talking about, there's different areas in Jacksonville that some people would say, well, wait a second. I mean, who's going there? What's happening there? But
Right.
Your idea is that, well, go where also people are not going.
Sure.
And two, you have your own vision to saying, wait a second, this is a beautiful spot. It may not be St. Augustine, it may not be Atlantic Beach, but you can make it its own thing. It's a thing.
Right.
Just like how we were talking about. I have a buddy of mine. I'm going to his a wedding in November in Detroit. And Kyle, he's getting married. He's gonna do it at a barn. Right. And it's like people are doing things in different locations and spots now. It doesn't even have to be in a cathedral. It doesn't have to be somewhere downtown. Like, they're doing it in different places and
unique spaces.
Right. Somebody owns that barn.
Right.
Somebody's renting it out, not just to their wedding, but to somebody that's coming the day after a birthday party. I don't know. I think the concept of it's really unique. I mean, it's not like it's maybe novel, but it's a concept of you being vocal about this is the next thing. It's like, wait,
and we'll see what happens. And the beauty of it is we're ready to pivot if it doesn't work. But we do know it's going to work in some ways. We have a really big house that we're working on in Hilliard. We're going to be able to try that out as well. So we have different ways to kind of dabble in it and see how it turns out. And more importantly, than anything, I think for me right now is just to be able to have some fun. It doesn't always have to be profit centered, even though that is a big part of our job to make money. But I think having fun along the way is important as well.
Yeah, and like you said, it's the happy experience behind it, right? Just like you said, everybody loves the Airbnb. We're coming here, we're gonna enjoy the beach. We're gonna enjoy doing what we're doing, Disney or wherever it is.
Right.
Same thing. Birthday parties, weddings, it's events. So people are coming in, and like I was explaining to Alex too, is like, wait a second, this is also another opportunity to say, hey, you're gonna have your venue here. Hey, your family's actually coming in for this.
Right.
By the way, we have all these Airbnb spots and these opportunities out there. It's kind of just a way to leverage all the other opportunities and then you
put it all together.
Yeah, put it all together. I think it's really cool. I mean, a lot of people are dropping comments in here. My guy, Robert Rodriguez. Robert, what's happening, man? He put a gem there, and he loves this kind of stuff, right? This is the kind of stuff we want to hear. Maria's watching. Maria, what's up? She goes, such a great idea. Light bulb. Love it. Courtney said, great idea. Paula said, and then they can stay at an Airbnb in Riverside. Right, there you go. Right, there you go. That's the whole idea. And she said, even celebration of life events. Yeah. So, I think this is something that I want to see you grow. I can't wait to see what you do in a year, 2 years from now. And you were talking about even the thing with Kyle. What was that, that whole project?
Right. So that's going to be, it's a place called Bailey Haddock. It's on the street called Bailey Haddock. And it's I believe it's on 3 or 4 acres. It's on the water, and it's going to be an event space that we're going to focus, I think, on that primarily. We're also going to dabble in, getting people to rent it out as a short-term rental for the weekend or for the week. But I think its best value is spent, with people having small events there. Again, it's not, 40 acres, 700 acre, estates, but it's big enough for people to have, 50 to 80 people at a nice event out there. So, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's in Hilliard. So that's a unique space out there. But I've noticed that there are a lot of event spaces out there. The barns are out there. That's where everyone wants to get married, is out in a barn somewhere in the middle of, out in the country somewhere. So we
Wow.
think that they're going to want to do it at this spot, at this property as well, especially once we're done renovating it.
I didn't even know there were barns like that out in Hilliard.
Well, yeah. And so there's another one, and I can't remember the name of it right now. Drove past it this morning. It's on 700 acres, and I think it's called The Barn. And I mean, I think they have alpacas. It's like an alpaca farm. They got, so you get to see them as you're driving by.
That's cool.
It's huge. Yeah. And, in Green Cove Springs, another one, they have the Manor. It's a beautiful event space. I believe it's on like 40 acres. And that's kind of, out there in the country a bit. And, people get married there constantly. And not only do they get married, and they have bar mitzvahs, they have, just birthday parties, they have drone photography classes. So there's just all sorts of interesting things. Obviously photo shoots.
Yeah.
And I say like, a knitting contest and stuff, but people do that too. They have to do it somewhere. So why not at a beautiful event space?
Yeah, chess competition, checkers,
Yeah, I love
a
that.
bunch of people coming in.
We intend to really, once we get these up and running about January, February, we've got a handful of them. We're going to just call every person, and, I'm going to put chess clubs on that. I mean, give them a call. I mean, because they're going to need to have it somewhere, and they might want to spend, even if it's on the smaller side, maybe it's $100 or $200 for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good use of time and of the space, I think.
Yeah.
So
maybe it'll be big enough where Yellowbird meetings can go too. Right?
Oh yeah, well I don't think it'll be that big. they've got several hundred people, right?
Yeah,
so.
that's a lot.
But maybe eventually, right? One of those farms, we get the 700 acre one.
Yeah, hold a huge party out there, right?
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Alex, I love it. I can't wait to see what you're going to do with it. It's huge stuff. I think a lot of people love it. Paula said Plantation Oaks Farm in Callahan.
There you go. I got to look that up.
Is that a different one, Paula, or is that the one that's 700 acres? We'll see.
Or is it, maybe that might be one for sale.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Right. Somebody put that on the MLS right there. Right. But all in all, I think this is great. I think I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad you talked about it. I can't wait to see do videos on this kind of stuff.
Right.
And,
we'll see a shift in that for sure.
Yeah, and I'm happy you got to come in person to this.
Yeah,
right?
man, this is cool.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, it is.
Just talk about what you've been working on, what's been working, and the market changes, and it's nothing to freak out about. I'm sure a lot of people talk about it all the time.
Right.
What's happening here. I mean, yeah, it may impact different things, but in terms of pivoting, right?
Got to be ready. Yeah,
you just got to be ready for it. So, thanks for coming. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I love it. And as I do with all my guests in person, I always have the t-shirt that I bring out.
Oh, okay.
I was like, what's your shirt size? I'm like, anybody that comes on the Al Nicoletti Show gets the t-shirt. So I got it for you.
Is that it, huh?
Oh yeah, this is
small?
it.
You got me a small?
No, the large. You got the small.
Okay.
Right there. Boom. We got him the t-shirt.
Nice.
Right there. So this
Very
is
nice.
for
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
I'll wear it.
Yeah, no, for sure. We'll make sure we take pics and everything with that. But we want this, for the community, right? Like one thing I learned is that when COVID hit, it was so hard for us to all go out and network and do this thing. And even now it's kind of like it kind of helps that this is like an online media platform where people can hear about this stuff. It's like not just the going in person meeting. Of course, that has a lot of benefits in networking, but people get to hear what's really happening.
Yeah,
so, but
helps.
local, like you being local in Jacksonville, right? So people know who you are, what's happening, and just helps.
Well, yeah, I look forward to coming back talking more about event spaces in a year. So
yeah, man. Well, hey, man.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming on. Love it. Love what you're doing. And as I do with all my guests to conclude the show, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts.
Okay.
And anything that's going through your mind on the future market, what's to come, any advice and tips and tricks for people just starting, you name it. I do this segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. Okay. Alex Rose, you got it.
All right. So, I guess I would just have to say, be ready to lose, be okay with it, be comfortable with it, learn from it. Be ready to pivot. We're going to be going through some crazy times right now. If you're getting started, this is a great time to learn some stuff and then pick up on some cheap properties. But I think that's the bottom line is you just got to be ready to, break even sometimes. You're not always going to knock it out of the park. We've went through a few years of that. You can't expect it to be that way all the time. So.
There you go. Solid advice from Alex right there. So Alex, again, thanks for coming in person, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
you
dude.
know I'm going to have you on again to talk about this kind of
I
stuff.
look forward to it.
Make sure you check out Alex's content, right? So I keep talking about these videos that he's putting out. If you go on Alex's, it's on his profile, right? Personal page, right?
Mm-hmm.
On his personal page, when's the YouTube channel coming out?
No, man.
We got to have that.
I'm sure we have a YouTube channel.
You got to definitely put the videos there.
Yeah.
But check out the videos because they're loaded with really cool before and afters, what he's working on, and I'm sure he's going to start doing that kind of stuff when it comes to event spaces.
100%,
So we'll definitely catch up eventually, man. I mean, it'll be awesome. Can't wait to see you soon.
Thanks, man.
Love it, man. All right, everybody. If you want more content like this, make sure you check out the Al Nicoletti YouTube channel, the Facebook page, the Instagram @Attorney Nicoletti, and all the amazing guests that have been on season 1, season 2, season 3. We bring on guests like Alex Rose, who are dropping tons of information, very valuable gems, and they can bring their experiences that they've gone through in real estate and really talk about what they've seen before, after, talk about market predictions, go through all these kinds of things, and really just lay it out there, right? We're here to provide the value back on what's happening in the community, what's working, what pivots you need to make, what changes you need to be thinking about when market changes happen, right? Whether the Fed raises the rates at 8% or beyond, or it goes back down, whatever that is, you got to be ready for these kinds of things. So if you missed any of the episode, go back to the beginning, watch it. Alex has been killing it with fix and flips and now getting into the event space, which is going to be super cool. And we're going to make sure we have him on back for that. So I thank you everybody for watching. I love as soon, what's crazy? As soon as we talked about the events, all of a sudden the comment section went boom. Yeah. I had a feeling that it was going to all of a sudden just go right down.
That's where it's going to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's intrigued by it. So you don't want to miss what Alex is working on. And thank you everybody for watching. And I will see you November 16th. We're doing a whole best of recap for next week. So if you missed any of the guests from the last quarter, you definitely want to tune in for next Wednesday when we'll put out a whole bunch of different ones that have been playing. And then the next one after that, you don't want to miss with Bob Bloom, asset protection lawyer, coming on to talk about how you can really make sure you keep your assets safe and the things you could do, whether it's LLCs, land trusts, all those kinds of wacky things that I don't even do and want to get into. And Bob's going to talk about all that. So again, we'll see you all next Wednesday or the following Wednesday, but check out the best of recap next Wednesday. It's crazy. The show's just constantly rolling. So I will see you all next week. Take care. Have a great night.